Now we're recording.
Okay,
So where do you want
here
to
we
start,
are.
Pete?
Okay, so the creative process. Uh, I know everybody's process will be probably quite different. My process is very random and chaotic, and um, the way I always write songs is that I take my left hand and it drops onto random keys, and that will usually become the starting point for a song. Um, and I would say 80% of my songs are written with that kind of starting point of the just the random.
Yeah, but
I
that's the
don't even
best.
I don't even look at where my hand is falling. It just falls there, and yeah, that is usually the starting point for me musically. Um, I like you do a lot of cut up stuff with words and poetry and stuff as well. Um, and once I've got I mean, as far as the collaborations we do, I think I mentioned this to you the other day. Usually with collaborations or even with my own stuff, I will open up a project and I will just throw down a quick idea and close it. Open up another project, throw down a quick idea, close it, and I'll do that either 20 or 30 times. And so I've got you know a whole load of things to choose from, and I'll just keep going back round each thing. And then go back to the beginning and start again and add a bit more or take something away or change something. And eventually it will start to all of a sudden feel like a piece of work or an album. Um, and
So do
yeah,
you often
that's,
have a lot of different projects that you're working on at the same time?
yeah. I mean, I also carry around projects in my head as well. I have, I've sometimes got three or four different concepts in my head where they're pretty solidly together in my mind. But I've got folders full of different projects. I mean, we just finished our latest album what 2 days ago, and we released it today. And I've already mostly written our next album. Um, it's I mean, obviously it needs some arranging and some work, but I've the last 2 days I've just been there going like that, and yeah, I think I've got another maybe 15 things um, for our next album already.
Yeah, but that's amazing. So these random kind of notes, they just inspire you and like strike chords within
Yeah,
yourself, and then you can come up with all of this new stuff.
yeah. I mean, because I do have like a background in music theory. When I was a kid, I did a lot of theory with my guitar teacher and so on. But it's not something that I consciously use. Um, I I try and push outside of theory, and I don't even realize, if I do something and somebody says like, oh, that's a minor third going to a flat ZH or something, then I don't know, just sounds good to me.
Yeah, but that's the thing too. Once you're trained in something, you don't have to think about it
No,
consciously. It just
no,
kind of
no.
weaves its way into things.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, so what about your creative process then?
Oh boy, we're going to talk about my creative process
Yeah.
too.
Well,
Well, we'll focus.
it's a chat, isn't it? It's a conversation more
Yeah,
than a than
absolutely.
an interview. So
Absolutely. Well, since we've made so many albums together, I will say, so I told you I've been working on my first cut up novel, Things
mm,
Happen. And it's been really fun to listen. I actually made an iTunes playlist of all of our albums in order. And I haven't been shuffling them, like listening to the songs randomly, because I feel like
mm,
they like make a really amazing progression. So I've been
yeah,
listening to all the albums on a loop, and they keep going around and around while I've been, like, working on this cut up novel because 'cause I'm done with the
Yeah.
at first, I actually, like, cut it up, like, cut up I wrote all these different stories and scenes, and then I cut them up and, like, threw them around randomly and then put them into an order. And
Mm.
now I'm in this process of, like, transcribing things and, like, working on things, editing in the computer, which is much less pleasant for me.
Yeah.
I much rather, like, work on paper, but, like, to make a book, it eventually has to go into the computer.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm.
And I even tried, like, OCRing it so that I wouldn't have to, like, type it so much, but I don't know, it's just like I don't know, it's been a kind of a drag, this part of the
Yeah.
process working on the computer,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
listening to the albums has made it, like, exciting again because so much of the cut ups that I've sent you spoken word are like fragments of stories from this book. So like while I'm working on the book, then the fragments of the stories that come into my ear through your music then like trigger different memories and things and I weave them into
Mm.
the book while I'm editing it. It's really
Yeah. Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. Well, I was looking at your book, Switching Mirrors, the other day, and I see things sometimes where like you might have used a phrase from that book in an audio file that you've sent me, and it's ended up in a song, um, and that's always really cool to when I'm looking through the book and all of a sudden I'll see I mean the books are over there at the moment, but on my shelf, but
Yeah, but you can
so
like hear it when you read it. You like hear it from the
yeah,
song.
yeah, 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 yeah. So yeah, but I mean, I don't have a set, this whole thing I said about randomly hitting keys. Sometimes I'll just be walking around the house and I'll just get a little melody in my head, and it'll just keep going round and round, and then I will then, sometimes I'll be walking the dogs and I'll get a melody in my head, and I'll be like, can't wait to get home, in the hope that I don't forget it by the time that I get to the keyboard or the guitar or whatever. But yeah, I also use not just the paper cut up thing. I have an app on my phone as well called what's it called? Um, cut, cut up engineer.
Ooh,
And
I don't
it's
have that app.
yeah, what you can do is you can input four different bodies of text, as short or as long in each section as you want. Um, and then you can choose a combination of how many words from each thing it will use, if and things like that. And then you click on like a process thing, and it will just randomize all of the text into a series of lines. And I use that as well. Sometimes I use that for I did a load of cut up poetry stuff a year, 18 months ago, something like that, and they were mostly done with the cut up engineer. I think I did about 100 short little poems, and they were all using that app, and
That's so cool.
you can just keep hitting the button as many times as you want, and it'll just keep just randomizing all the text. And so yeah, that's a cool little app.
So it's like an
Yeah,
app that's similar to like what David Bowie had, where he like put in different like phrases and then the
yeah,
computer would like mix it up and turn it into
yeah,
lyrics.
yeah, yeah. And you can choose how many lines it will give you back, how long the lines will be, and so yeah, it's
That's so cool. I'm gonna have to
yeah, yeah,
download that.
yeah,
I
yeah,
also love with the songs how like the first songs I sent you, you kept the kind of poetry that I sent kind of whole, like as it was. But then you started
yeah,
like cutting it up and making me say all these different things that I had
yeah,
recorded. And that's been so fun to hear because you actually like really capture like a lot of the kind of ambiance and settings of like things that I'm describing. Like it like to me they like capture like the time period that I'm talking about
mm,
in a lot of these like scenes. And you capture it so well through your like intuitively putting it together in a different way.
yeah. It's at first it was a bit strange because I you don't know how far you can go with something like that. I mean, sometimes I collaborate with people and they just like me to leave the text exactly as it is. And then I knew that you were into cut up stuff, and I think we even talked about it one point when I said, "Oh, I'm not, I've cut some," and you're like, "No, no, I
Go
prefer it
for
like that.
it.
Do that, do that." And so since then, I've really gone for it, and but it kind of because it can feel like I'm putting words in your mouth, like it's you didn't say these things, but you did.
Exactly. I love
You
it.
said those words, but you didn't say them in that order. It's
No, but in that order, capture something that I was saying that I hadn't
yeah,
said.
yeah, yeah. That's really cool. And I really enjoy working on it. It's for me, it doesn't feel like work. It doesn't feel, it's just I just completely get lost in, and sometimes I will. I sit there with the file playing, and I'll just I'll chop and drag out like certain words I hear. Sometimes I will literally just chop the file without even listening to it, um, and I'll just chop out little bits and pull them all together, and then see what happens when you know these things are next to each other. Sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes it you know produces something very cool, and um, yeah, it's it feels like a very free way to work, like very and inspiring, and you know it's some of the most enjoyable stuff I've done musically.
I love it. Carl and I were
Yeah.
recently on a road trip and we listened to all the albums in the car. And Carl was like, "These are so good. These are so good." Because we listened to them like on my computer. It's not the same. It's like a really
Mm.
good stereo system like the car has.
Yeah,
It was so fun. We were just
yeah,
like
yeah,
listening to them on repeat the whole drive. They're so good.
yeah. Well, I mean, I tried to do a car listen, and you, I messaged you about this earlier because obviously this won't be going out today. It'll be so whoever's watching this, this conversation happened weeks ago, but I I had to go out today. We had a bit of a drama. My wife had to have an emergency dentist appointment today,
Mm.
um, and then I had to go to the supermarket. And I got to the supermarket, and as I was getting to the checkout, all of the tills shut down. So I was stood in a crowd of people, getting bigger and bigger for 30 minutes in the supermarket, and
No, no.
um, but going out, because I don't go out very often, I very rarely leave the house. Um, I listened to the new album in the car, and as soon as I put it on, that first song came in, and the bass just I thought the speakers were going to fall out of the car. So I got as soon as I got back, and I was stood in the by the checkout in the supermarket, thinking I need to sort this song out. It's and so I got back and messaged you, and I very quickly just sorted it out, and then we've put the album out today.
I'll
So
put
it's
that
lucky that
song
I've
as
been.
the song at the end of this episode
Oh, okay,
so
yeah.
everyone
So
can hear what we're talking about.
yeah, yeah. So it's not as bass heavy as it was uh, this morning, um, but it's
She said,
probably still
"Daddy."
bass
That's
heavy.
the
Yeah,
song.
that's the one. Yeah, yeah. I've had that song for a while. It was um, there's a few. There's a few songs, probably about 10 songs that you haven't even heard yet that haven't seemed to fit on albums, or I haven't been able to get the mix how I want it or whatever. Um, and I think that was because I wrote the sixth, seventh, and eighth album music all very close together, and I think it was originally going to be on sixth or seventh, um, and it just I couldn't get the sound right. I was really like, and so I left it off. And when I started on this album, I thought it's got to be the first song.
It's
It's
such a good song.
it's the way it comes in with the sound swoops from one side to the other, and then it's got the door shut in throughout the song, and and I thought it really worked well as an intro song. So yeah, uh, And
It's so good. One night soon, Carl and I like to have, like, little club nights, but also at our house because we also don't leave the house.
yeah,
So
yeah,
we have, like, one room that's, like, the music room with the record player, and sometimes we, like, light candles and put on, like, colored lights and, like, pretend we're, like, at the club. So we'll have
yeah,
to have a,
right.
like, Pete Murphy, Vanessa club night where we listen to all the music there, and I bought us an absinthe fountain this year.
Okay.
So we have, like, a little absinthe fountain. We can, like, drink absinthe and listen to the music
Yeah,
or pretend we're
yeah.
at our own club.
Well, I don't even have a speaker system in here at the moment. My wife Lindsay, her brother was here yesterday, and she said, "I'll play him some of the new album you've done." And I was like, "I haven't got any speakers." I do everything on headphones. I do all of my mixing and recording and everything. I do it all on headphones, and I don't have, which for a musician is quite a poor show, really.
We need to get you some speakers so you can share
Yeah,
with
well,
the
no,
others.
I do have speakers, but they're up in the attic in boxes. It's just not practical for me to have speakers in the house. I could do, but it's very strange. But I have other rooms that I could use to make music in here. Um, but I like to be in the lounge, and so Lindsay's at one side of the lounge when I'm making music, and I'm here at the back end of
So
the
you're in the
lounge.
same room.
Yeah, and we're with the dogs, and it's all and that's this is where I feel most comfortable and inspired to make music. So I mean, I actually have a music room right behind me. You can see the door to it there, and I never go in there. It just feels like I'm in this little space with you know there's
Maybe it's an
um,
incubator so that you can make the
mm,
music in the room next door.
yeah. Yes. Yeah. So it's the compromise of making music in the most communal area of the house is no speakers, but I would rather sacrifice that and have the comfort of creating in an environment that inspires me.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. And also, I bet you can hear things really clearly on the headphones, like very detailed,
yeah,
I'm assuming.
yeah. I mean, it's not considered ideal to mix on headphones. I think a lot of mix engineers would say no, no, you shouldn't do that. But it's just what I do.
Seems to
So
work out okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I always struggle with mixing. I'm not. I find it the hardest and most time consuming part of the process is the mixing. But I tend to get there in the end. Um,
I
yeah.
recorded all the spoken word in Carl's studio. Well, sometimes I've sent you things I've recorded on my mosquito microphone, my phone, but he said it gives like a little bit
Mm.
of a hiss. So I try
Oh
to
yeah.
always use Carl's studio now, but it's in like this also very tiny room that's like in the stairwell on the way to our attic. And so it has
Yeah.
like no heat or anything. So like when I was
Okay.
recording last weekend, I sent you like 2 hours of recording. I had
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
this like huge jacket on and like scarves and things.
Right.
And I'm like totally bundled up and trying not to move because if you move, you could like hear the squish of the jacket on the microphone because it's so sensitive. So it's like really still.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I record everything in like one sitting. When I turn the page of the book now, I like pause the recorder, turn the page, and then restart it. But I just sat up there for like 2 hours straight and just sat and
That's what.
recorded.
That's what. That's what the little clicks are then, because
That's
I've
what it
used those.
is.
I've used those in some of the songs. Some of the songs on the new album. If you hear a click, it's I've taken your click and maybe I've left it as it is, or maybe I've changed the pitch or the stretched the tempo or whatever. But yeah, your little clicks are in the album. I like stuff like that. It's I think the opening song on the album, the door that shuts. I think that's from one file you sent me. I think Carl was in the room with you, and
Hmm.
he walked out of the room and shut the door. and I've used that in a few places on our albums, and so I'm pretty sure that that's Carl shutting the door, and I like to use those things. Sometimes I hear traffic going past in the background on things, and I like to, do weird things with that, and stretch it out, or condense it into it might be like 4 seconds of traffic going past that I'll stretch down to half a second, or stretch out to 20 seconds, um, and so yeah, I like all of those little extra things that happen in the recordings.
Now, do you prefer the clicks or do you prefer the sound of a page turning? Because I can do either.
Either way, I'm good. I think I've used the page turning sounds as well. Yeah, in and so but yeah, I like all of the little extra noises and things that happen. Like sometimes you can hear you swallow. I don't know if you've taken a sip of water or something, and I've used that in things. And sometimes it's so quiet that I have to really, really boost the signal of it to, make it audible. But there are all sorts of little things that happen in recordings other than the voice, that I like to use.
Totally. It reminds me of,
Yeah.
it's a little different, but it reminds me of like Coil's Elf project, where they like to use the like random things that the machines would create that weren't intentional.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I love stuff like that, and I'm always recording little noises and things that I hear. It's like when I said I was stuck in the supermarket this morning in a crowd of people, I start recording on my phone. It's so I can get the sound of the crowd and people walking past and things they say, and there's I record outside in my garden sometimes. Like the next door neighbors have got this little I think they're Vietnamese people, and they've got like a little thing that makes this constant looping bit of music with it. Uh,
Mm.
and I've recorded that, and that's on one of our songs somewhere. And so I love taking sounds from just around. I've taken the sound of when you're at the traffic lights, and you press the button to stop the traffic, it does a little do 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 do. I've used that in things, and there's I like just ambient sounds and noises, and then processing them in unusual ways, so they end up not necessarily being recognizable as the thing that they actually are, but yeah,
Yeah, I
can
love found
inspire.
sounds, and I love listening to albums later too because they're like little diaries. They end up being like little
Yeah,
diaries because you remember where you got all these sounds and phrases and things
yeah, yeah, yeah,
from. So it's like
yeah, yeah,
having these little like musical diaries, or when you make videos. You have to
yeah.
send me more material too to use in videos because I'm gonna make some videos for some of the songs.
Okay. Yeah, I video is my worst thing. I'm terrible at video, but I think I've sent you video in the past
I
with
love
the
it.
that black and white video for what was the song now? I can't remember, but
Carl used it.
yeah, yeah.
Carl used it, and then I clipped from what Carl had made.
Okay, okay, yes, but yeah, I've always struggled with video, and um, yeah, and so
Well, I like your video clips, so send more,
right,
whether you
okay,
like it or not.
okay, okay. I'll have to. It's the kind of thing. It's like, I mean, because I don't find it comfortable, I never do it. And maybe if I did it more, I would become more comfortable with it. But yeah, yeah, I'm always more of a behind the camera kind of guy, than yeah. Just look at me, kind of. I struggle with that. But yes. So yeah.
I understand that. In trade, I'll send you. I don't know if I sent it to you already. I don't think so, but I have like a list of all of Carl's films with the passwords to watch them. Have I sent this to you?
No, no.
Okay, I'll send you the list so that you have it, and
Okay.
then you can watch all of Carl's films. Is
Okay, great. Yeah, definitely. I'd
that a
love to
good
see that. Yeah.
trade?
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Or
Okay.
bribe?
Yeah. I'll film some things then. Yeah. Yes. Yes. I like Carl's work. I've seen some of his things. And yes. So yeah. Um, I also wanted to talk about influences and things like that. Um,
Please
and
do.
'cause, I mean, there are quite a few people that I credit uh, with what I do now. You know, I don't think I would have found my way to making the music that I do if it wasn't for certain people. You see this painting behind me?
Mhm.
That was done by one of my closest friends, a lady from Atlanta called Suzanne Cooper Morris, and she's an abstract artist. And we have numerous pieces of hers around the house. Even she does cut ups as well.
Nice.
Um,
They're
and
beautiful.
I've I've known Suzanne for many years, since probably close to 20 years now. And she came over here back around 12 years ago and spent some time with us. And then I went over to Atlanta in 2018. She was the kindest. She just drove me around everywhere. Went over to see one of my musical heroes called James Hall, who's he's a guy who he changed my life when I was 21 years old. Hearing his music just completely changed the path I was on and made me realize what more could be done with rock music. Um, and so Suzanne, you know, took me. Her husband Tim took me to the shows that James did over there. I went to James's house. He took me out for breakfast one morning, and it was yeah. And so Suzanne's work is great. Um, and yeah, I credit her greatly with inspiring me. I actually did an album when I came back from America and I convinced Suzanne to be the voice of the album. It was a concept album about a character, and I managed to convince Suzanne to voice the main character. She doesn't do music at all, but she kindly provided all the spoken word stuff, all the, you know, the little interlude sections of voice and things like that. And so yeah, I credit Suzanne greatly with helping me as an artist. And yeah, so I'd like to give respect to Suzanne. And
Very nice. And I can make sure to link to her work too on the in the webpage.
yeah, and also James Hall, as I said, he is an artist that I was 21 years old. I was into rock music, and then I heard this guy, James Hall, and it just completely turned my head. And I thought, oh, so that's what you can do with rock music. That's, you know, you you don't just have to do this one thing. You can do anything. And so I followed James's career for for years, and we became friends. And I even ended up doing backing vocals on one of his songs a few years back.
It's
I
amazing. I love when things like that happen.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And yeah, so James has been really helpful, and he's just one of the nicest guys, most unassuming rock stars you could meet. He's friends with so many uh, so many really famous, respected people, and he's just got no rock and roll kind of ego about him. He's just the nicest guy. Um, Yeah. So, and somebody else who I wanted to talk about is somebody who I think you know maybe in some way is Ergo Physmis.
There we go.
Yes, you're aware of Ergo. Now, Ergo, I have to give the greatest respect to Ergo Physmis. I was lost in 2017, completely like at the point of giving up on music. I didn't know what to do, where to go, and I I had heard some recordings that were covers of Aphex Twin songs by Ergo Physmis and his orchestra. I think that was the name of the project. Ergo Physmis and his orchestra plays Aphex Twin, and I thought, oh, I need to check this guy out, you know. So I went on Facebook and I found Ergo Physmis, and I don't know why, but I couldn't find the actual, you know, the artist page that you click like on. I just saw a personal profile, so I sent a friend request, and I don't normally do that because I'm very kind of shy and, you know, whatever. But I sent the friend request, and the friend request was accepted, and I thought, okay, I need to check this person's music out more, and I completely forgot. And then some time later, I made a post on Facebook. It was probably several months later, and somebody clicked like on the post. Somebody called Dominic Robertson, and I thought, I don't know anybody called Dominic Robertson. Who's this? And so I went on the page, and I realised, oh, it's this Ergo Physmis person. So it reminded me to check their music out. I went on to Bandcamp and heard this album called Boobarosh, and it just completely flipped my head. And I had to send Ergo a message and say, your music has just blown me away, you know, thank you. And so we became friends, and we've done a lot of, we've worked on a lot of things together. I've guested on Ergo's albums, and I used to drive 3 hours to London to watch Ergo play for 30 minutes and then drive 3 hours back. That's how great Ergo Physmis is to me. And you see the little above the Suzanne painting? That was sent to me by Ergo. It's a guinea fowl.
Ah.
And so yeah, yeah.
So where do
So
you live on the island of England? Do you live like
okay,
northern, or do you live
I'm
southern?
I'm in the West Midlands,
West.
so
Getting
kind of
close to
central.
Wales?
Yeah, it's you could probably get to Wales in about an hour. I live in a little town called Sutton Coldfield, which is just outside Birmingham. It's not far from Coventry, Stratford upon Avon, um,
My
and
mom's from Birmingham, but Birmingham, Alabama.
oh, okay. I know some people from Birmingham, Alabama. But yes, yes. So we're I'd say about an hour's drive will get you toward, you know, very close to Wales. But we're kind of in the middle, really, West Midlands. Um, it's yeah, we're in a very quiet little road, um, and
It's nice.
yeah, yeah.
We live
It's
in a little town now, and I love it.
yeah.
I had always been
So
a city person. Miami has millions of people. Then I did
yeah,
live for 1 year, a year and a half in a small town in California when I worked at a
okay,
university there for my postdoc. And I would have stayed, but then it was like 2007, 2008, and everything collapsed and they
yeah.
cut our department and everything. So, but I liked it there for that moment. Then I went to New York, which of course is like 10 million people. Yeah, and
Yeah.
then Stockholm seemed very small with 1.5 million people, but now our town
Mm.
has like 11,000 people.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I like the quiet. Um, you know, I mean, the city centre of Birmingham is quite accessible. It's what 15 minutes away, but where we are, it's just really quiet. Um, and I like it that way. I like the quiet. I like seclusion. I like, you know, as I
Yeah,
said,
and I
I
don't
don't
see
go out.
your stories made me think of Val Denham too. So I know Ergos from Vicky Bennett and People Like
Yeah,
Us. She works
yeah,
with him a lot
yeah,
too.
yeah.
And Carl made a film about her, which will be on the list that I send you,
Okay.
which is fantastic. Her work is
Yeah,
also very amazing, but
yeah,
she works with music too, but her film work is
yeah.
just like mind blowing.
Yeah, I have some of the recordings here. I've got some CDs of People Like Us, yeah, and the Keystone cut-ups, and I have a DVD, I think, as well.
It's so
Yeah,
good.
yeah, yeah,
And then Val Denham have like I love those moments, like you said, where you like love this artist and they inspire you, and then you get to end up working with them and being like on their albums and things. And that happened with Val Denham. I'm not on any of her albums, but like when Carl and I were organizing our first psychoanalysis art in the occult conference in London, I had a dream actually that Val was there giving a talk, and I didn't know Val at all, but, like, somehow we were Facebook friends or something, probably
mm,
from Jen or Carl or whatever, I don't know, but, somehow we were Facebook friends, and so when I had this dream, I, like, wrote her and I told her about the conference and, and then I realized, like, at some point when I was chatting with her, she was like, "Oh, maybe I would do that, but I don't really like to leave my house." She doesn't like to go anywhere either,
yeah, yeah,
and, uh and then and then I was like, "Oh, wait, with people like this, like artists, like really creative people, I could actually tell her I had this dream and she's not gonna think I'm like a psycho," you know? Especially with magical people, magical artists, you know? So I told her like, "This is what happened. I had this dream or whatever." And then she's like, "Well, then I have to go." And I was like, "Oh,
yeah,
great." So she ended up coming and she has this great song called You've Gotta Make It Happen, which is like such a great anthem, and it's like all about her life and like being yourself and yeah, making it happen. Like don't listen
mm,
to the naysayers basically. And then at the conference we also had Val perform, and then there was like a moment where she sang that song and I like got up and like sang it with her, and it was like
mm,
so awesome. I love those
cool.
moments.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it was similar with you as well. I mean, I'd heard one of your albums. What was the album called now? Um,
It
I can't
doesn't
remember.
matter.
Um, and and it became one of my favorite albums of the year that I
Oh,
heard
maybe it
it.
was the one with
And
Nordvari.
I think it was, yeah, yeah. And I thought, oh, I'd love to work with this person. I'd love to, to work with these vocals, and I think I might have made some uh, post on
You said you
Twitter
were
or
looking for
something.
vocals, like spoken word to
Y-
work with.
Yeah,
This is when Twitter
and
was awesome and you met awesome
yeah,
people on
yeah,
Twitter. Now Twitter fucking
yeah,
sucks.
yeah, yeah. But and I made that post thinking, wouldn't it be great if Vanessa Sinclair saw this post and she was the person who respond, and that's what happened. Um, because yeah, because I just loved that album, and I had you in mind but because I'm so shy and don't like to approach people, and you know I I struggle to just get in touch with somebody and say, hey, so you want to work together, or whatever. And you happen to see the post, replied to it saying, yeah, I'll send you some
Yeah,
vocals.
was it the algorithms or was it magical? Was it destiny? We'll never know.
And yeah, well, it was but yeah, what I had hoped would happen happened. And
Perfect.
yeah, yeah,
Now we have 8
and
albums.
yeah, yeah, and because you sent me 2 hours of vocals last week, we there'll probably be another eight very
Good.
soon.
I like them. When I
Yeah,
first
yeah.
started doing cut-ups, I never ever imagined they would even be set to music. It was just
No.
like I was just cutting up text and making like just textual cut-ups to see what they would say. And then at some point I like was listening to like a lot of Burroughs lectures and things at the time on like YouTube or reading The Third Mind and stuff like that. And somewhere Burroughs said that you should really read the cut-ups out loud because they're like little spells or invocations. So then I
Mm,
started like reading all these poems out loud, and they really do feel like spells or invocations when you read them out
mm,
loud.
Right.
And so then I started recording them, and then made this, just like I made this playlist with our albums. I made like an iTunes playlist with like all my cut up recordings that I would just record in my phone, and I would listen to myself like speaking the cut ups while I would like make cut ups, and I would do this for like,
Yeah.
8 or 10 hours. Like I go into
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
zones where I'm just
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
there. And then when I met Carl, um, I sent him some. So I was like, oh, maybe he'll like my little cut up poems, you know? And so I sent him some, and then he sent them back set to music. And I was like, whoa, what is
Okay.
that? Like what
Yeah. Yeah.
happened?
Yeah.
Because I was
Yeah.
just like a normal like psychologist. Like I didn't ever imagine I would like have albums and people would see
Yeah.
my art and stuff. That was just like stuff I did at home, like in my room by myself,
Yeah. So was it doing that with Carl that encouraged you to then um, become more than just a psychologist? Then,
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. Um,
Yeah.
I met Carl, I met Jen in 2011, and I met Carl in 2013, and I was actually with Jen, like dating Jen. I don't know if you date Jen. I was in something with Jen.
Yeah. Okay.
I was involved. I was
Okay.
involved with Jen in 2013, and Jen actually told me that Carl was coming to New York to do like a book launch at this like occult bookstore that I used to go to. And we were supposed to go together. And then Jen was like going on tour the next day, and decided like that they wanted to like stay home and rest or whatever. They weren't feeling well. So I actually left, which is kind of surprising in retrospect because I was kind of at Jen's house like all the time. But I actually
Mhm.
left Jen's house to go to Carl's book launch. And then I met Carl there, and he like bought his book or whatever. And then I went back to Jen's house, and we were both, I remember like Jen and I were both like reading Carl's book in bed or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. And so it's just funny that ended up with Carl, because that's not what I
Yeah.
expected at the time. And Carl was actually in New York, like making the Change Itself film that Carl made about Jen at that same time. So like, yeah, so we were all like, whoo, circling around each other. But really, like, my involvement with Jen kind of outed me as like, being like more pansexual, and also like being like witchy person. Because
Yeah. Yeah.
before that, I was like very much like, yeah, just a psychologist, psychoanalyst, going about my life being
Yeah.
professional.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I was a professional. I was trying to be professional, and working in a hospital and things like that, and I had my private practice. But then, yeah, when you're walking around with Jen, people are like, "What's going on
Yeah.
here?" "What's
Well,
this?" And Jen would be like, "Oh, this is my girlfriend. She's a psychoanalyst," and people were like, "Okay." And like people would stop us on the street a lot, like, "Oh, you're Genesis Pure." And be like, "I am," And then like everyone I knew as like my colleagues, like some people had no idea who Jen was, but some people
mhm.
did, and they were just like, "What's going on here?" And so then I was just kind of, because with like magic stuff, they call it like coming out of the broom closet. It's kind of like a
Okay.
different form of coming out. Like once all your
Mm.
colleagues find out that you like are into witchcraft, they see you a
Yeah.
little
Yeah.
differently.
Right.
I'm
Okay.
sure I was already into like different art and stuff and wrote about
Mm.
it. Um, like weaved I like to write like art reviews and stuff from like a psychoanalytic perspective. But you can kind of
Yeah.
like get
Yeah.
away with it. It's like it's art, so it's okay
Mm.
to be a little out there if it's art.
Yeah.
But I've just progressively, yeah, been coming more and more out of my closets
Yeah. Yeah.
as time has gone on since I was kind of thrust out in 2013, which I guess is 10 years ago now.
Yeah. 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 Well, I don't know if I've ever told you this, but the school that Jen went to is about a 5-minute walk from the school that I went to
Right. In Hull?
in Solihull in just near Birmingham. So yeah, I think Jen went to Solihull School, and I went to a school just around the corner.
Super
Um,
cool.
yeah. So, but from what I've heard, Jen didn't like school very much, or that
No.
school.
And Jen also, I think that was where Jen was like throwing these little pieces of paper around the town that like had like little messages written on them, and would like
Right.
watch and see people pick them up, and like how would they respond to these little like
Right.
missives
Okay.
that they would find on the ground around town.
Mm, yeah.
Yeah, but Jen never like, yeah, Jen never had like a regular job or anything. Jen
No.
just
No.
was always just Jen.
Obviously, we weren't at school at the same time because there's,
No,
you know, an age difference.
you're
But
much younger.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, yeah, I was quite surprised when I read that. I didn't realise at all that we went to school just round the corner from each other.
Yeah. Well, a lot of good stuff comes out of there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Birmingham's, you know, some of the big classic rock bands, ELO, and but there's also a lot of really good experimental stuff goes on here as well. Um, there's a great venue called Centrala in town on the outskirts, and they have just great like jazz gigs, free jazz stuff. Have you heard Goody Pal?
No.
No, Goody Pal um, played at Centrala a few years ago, and I think in the experimental avant-garde, I can't remember where Goody Pal is from, maybe Poland. Um, just incredible stuff, uh, and it's worth checking Goody Pal out. But artists like that come through and play at Centrala, um, and so yeah, we have a not that I get out to gigs very much. I don't.
But it's
You know,
nice that you can. There's somewhere
yeah,
nearby
yeah, yeah, yeah,
if
yeah.
you
It's
so
about ten
choose.
minutes. Yeah, yeah, yes. I mean, the town that I'm in is a bit kind of conservative and whatever, but I don't, so I do have to travel into town if I want to go to something a bit cooler. But I saw JPEG Mafia last year in town. That was great. Real hardcore hip hop kind of stuff. It was great.
Nice. I would love
Mm.
to come to England, even though I'm averse to leaving my house because I love it.
Yeah.
If I were to venture out, I would love to come to England and do like a little like driving tour and visit some different people around England that I love, like Val. Val's in Yorkshire. It'd be fun to see
Okay.
you and like Robert Answell from Folger. And I'd like to go to like Derek Jarman's house.
Yeah.
Last time we were there was 2019. It was for Robert Ansell's wedding, Robert and Aisha's wedding, and we
Mhm.
visited Val and her wife on that trip. And we also went to Wales and went to Port Merion because Carl loves The Prisoner. So we
Yeah.
went and hung out there. But the trains were like such a nightmare that it like really turned me off because like we had to like stand on this train even though we had tickets. Like I didn't know
Yeah.
that they just like oversold the seats, and we had to
Yeah.
stand there with our luggage for like 6 hours.
Right. Yeah. I don't. Buses are similar as well. People standing up on buses and things. But yeah, I don't like the train
No, and I
system.
would love to drive, but it's on the other side of the road, and I don't
Yeah.
know if that would work out so well.
Yeah. When my friend Suzanne visited, her and another friend of ours, Heather, they came over together, and they when they stayed with us, we drove them around. But then they moved on to, I think they went to Ireland, and they went to some other places in England, and they hired a car. And Suzanne had to get used to driving on the other side of the road, and I think I took her out one day and let her drive. Um, but yeah, it was. I think it was something very strange to get used to.
But it is possible. My Swedish tutor lived in England for a period of time, and he said that it's not that hard because everything's just like mirror reverse. So like it takes a little getting used to, but that it's not as hard as you think. But I
Yeah,
don't know. I don't know if I trust myself. We'll see.
yeah. I
But I
went.
might be inspired to try overtaking the train in England again.
If you come to Birmingham, I will drive you around Birmingham. I struggle to
Yeah.
leave the city though.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I definitely want to go see Val too
Yeah,
She's in Yorkshire. But also maybe if I come in north, like from Scotland, and take a
yeah,
train down to Yorkshire, and then like down, maybe it won't seem as bad. And also, maybe now that I know this about the trains, if I book the train like way, way ahead of time, then maybe I'll get a seat.
yeah.
Because we were kind of booking trains as we went, not knowing that they were going to sell us a ticket that there was no seat for. So maybe
Hmm.
there's a way to make sure you have a seat.
Yeah. Sheer will and force. Uh,
Magic.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, Scotland. I recommend Edinburgh is nice if you go to Scotland, and Yorkshire is very nice. I've spent time in Yorkshire. Um, so yeah.
I've never been to Scotland, but apparently I've been doing my ancestry, and you can trace people back to Northern Ireland and into Scotland and into like Yorkshire. So apparently
Okay.
my DNA is from around that area
Yeah.
heavily.
Yeah.
And then I also have like 12% Scandinavian, which Carl said
Okay.
is from like them raiding the Isles, most likely.
Okay.
Like that's probably where the Scandinavian comes from. It's from like
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
Scandinavians raiding the British Isles
Yeah.
people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Raiding, that's a nice way of putting it.
Well, yeah. Obviously, with a name like Murphy, I have an Irish background. Yeah, my family come from Cork in Southern Ireland.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, yeah. I haven't been there since I was, I think, about 12. Um, yeah, nice to
Jenny
visit
Butler
again
lives in
sometime.
Cork.
Who
She
does?
teaches Jenny Butler, she teaches at the university there.
Right.
She's
Okay.
like a pagan academic.
Yeah. Okay.
She's nice.
Yeah.
Was there
I haven't
anything else
heard
you
of.
wanted to mention that we didn't get to, Pete?
I'm sure there was, but I can't remember.
Well, you can always come back anytime.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, I can't remember right now. Yeah,
That's okay.
uh, yeah. But it's been enjoyable. I'm not, as I said, I'm not good with this kind of thing, but it's been more just like a, a chat than it's been
Hangout
quite an informal
session.
kind of, yeah, than a heavy, you know, so what do you do? Kind of,
Tell me.
mm, yes. But yeah, and I'm very impressed by your uh, library
The
behind
book
you.
collection. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what
yeah,
happens when Carl's books and my books get together.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I have quite a lot of books, but nothing like that.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
kind of insane. And
yeah,
there's books in the barn, like boxes and boxes of books. That was
yeah.
actually one of the first things when Carl came to my office for the first time when I had my private practice in New York. I had like I didn't even have bookshelves. I just had like books like stacked on, on the floor, like in
Right. Yeah,
piles.
yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, so you have a book problem too?" And I was like, "Yeah, for
I'll show
sure."
you some. I'll show you something now. Oops, I'm nearly falling over.
Sometimes late at night, I order books. I think
Just
there's worse
books.
problems. Hey,
You
it's
say about books
me.
on. Yeah,
Books
it's you.
piles. That's
Yeah.
exactly what my office looked like.
So yeah, book piles. Um, I I run out of space, so I have to just stack them on top of each other. And um, in the other room, I have a case full of books, and um, so yeah,
I
yes, I'm
love it.
familiar. I'm familiar with the book pile concept. And as you asked me if there's anything else I wanted to talk about, is there anything else you want to talk about on the show?
Mm. Mm. Not that I can think of. I just wanted to make sure to tell you what I told you, which was that I love how you cut up what I say and make it something that you have me say. To me, that
Right.
is exhilarating. It's super fun.
Yeah.
So I'm always looking
Well.
forward to seeing what you come up with
Cool.
next.
Hmm. Okay. Well, yes. I will. I'll probably be doing some more work on the next album this evening. So,
Okay, and
and
anytime you wanna come back, you're welcome, and anytime you wanna make music, I'm up for it.
yep,
And when the Thing
same
Happens
here as
book
well.
comes out, I will send it to you for sure.
Oh, great. Yes, I will look forward to reading that. And yeah, so yeah, the same goes for you. Anytime you want to make music or send things or whatever. I think we mentioned about using the audio of this conversation.
Sure, I can send you the
Yeah.
audio.
So if you could do that, then I can do my my chop thing and
Work your
see what
magic.
happens. Yeah, see what happens with putting some music to it.
Okay, I can send it to you
Yeah.
tonight.
Oh, great. Cool.
Alright, well, have a good night,
Yeah.
Pete. It was lovely to
Yeah.
talk with
And
you.
you. And you. And thanks for having me. And
Bye, Pete.
bye.